Hello, welcome. I'm glad to be here with you. I'm Daryl from DEW Foods, and I'm excited to be here to give you some recipe ideas. We're so thankful for all of the wonderful contributions from the Oprah Winfrey Charitable Foundation through South LA Forward, bringing to you fresh produce from CLA Farms. So I thought I'd spend a few minutes telling you what you can do with some of the items you receive. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make a fresh vegetable frittata. So if your box doesn't contain cauliflower or broccoli, what do? Well, you can use just about any vegetable that's contained in your box. You don't want to use things that have a heavy water content like a cucumber, but you could certainly, or celery, but you could certainly add some carrots, some potatoes. Just make sure you cook them a little bit longer so they're not too crunchy. By the way, the easiest way to break eggs is not on the side of a bowl, but on a flat surface. It causes the shell to collapse in on itself, and then you get a nice small little divot to put your fingers in and peel away. So I've just gotten to my 8th egg, and I'm gonna then, oops, a little bit of shell in there, so let's get that out. Always break your eggs into a clean bowl so that if you do end up with shell, you can fish it out. There we go. Now to this, we're gonna add just a little bit of salt and pepper. That's all in your recipe. I'm gonna do it by hand here, not gonna measure. And we're gonna add the 2 tablespoons of, I'm using half and half. You can use either cream or milk. And we're just gonna gently whisk those around. You don't need a whisk. You could just do this with a normal fork. And we're gonna just get the batter to look kind of like an omelet, because a frittata is sort of like a fluffy omelet. And that's all we need to do. Okay, so we're gonna cut off just the tender parts of both the cauliflower and broccoli, because we're gonna saute them a bit to soften them so that in the frittata they're not too crunchy. The whole stem is usable and it's really great and crunchy and has a lot of nutritious value, but for this dish, we're just gonna be using the tips. So I'm just gonna cut through till I get small little pieces like that. And probably only don't need too much. Probably just need about a head of broccoli. And then for the cauliflower, we're gonna do the same thing. We're gonna break away these big, luscious leaves that grow on the cauliflower, and we're gonna just cut into the stem here, which will release something that's called a floret. So this is one cauliflower floret. And we're going to take this, and once again, we're just gonna cut way down into the center part where the stems are. And get our cauliflower, and we'll break it away here until we've got about the same size pieces as the broccoli. So one other thing that we might want to use in our frittata is something like cheese. And you can use any cheese that you have. You can use American cheese or cheddar cheese, jack cheese, Swiss cheese. So I've got a piece of cheddar cheese here, and I'm just going to grate a little bit of it, and I'll leave it in this grater until we're ready to use it in the dish. And you don't need a lot of cheese, maybe a 1/4 cup, a 1/2 cup, but that'll all be explained in your recipe that's included. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is just add a little bit of oil. I'm using olive oil, but you can use any oil that you like. And we're going to just add our vegetables to the pan here. And we're going to just let them cook. We're going to let them cook gently, and then we'll just cover them with a little cover here. And you'll see the little steam will create. And this is on a low temperature. So we're going to just let those steam until they soften up a little bit. So one thing that'll help these really crunchy vegetables cook up a little bit is we'll put our heat up a little bit to medium, and then we'll just add a little bit of water so that they kind of steam. And then we'll just recover the lid and let them cook for a few more minutes until we can put a fork through them and they feel a little less hard. Okay, so after we check them a few times and we can see that there's a little bit, I can pierce them with a fork without pushing too hard, so they're getting just a little bit soft. They'll cook a little bit more in the frittata. I'll set the lid aside, and then we're gonna add our frittata batter. And we're gonna cook those over medium heat, but we're gonna stir them a little bit so that they end up looking like scrambled eggs. We're not gonna get them as hard as scrambled eggs, but we're gonna just stir this around so that the curds come up. You can see that's cooking. Maybe you have to turn your heat up a little bit. You don't want it too high. You don't want these to bubble, but you do want them to cook. And we're gonna cook them till they look like really, really wet scrambled eggs. And then we're gonna go ahead and put them in our oven so that they finish. We wanna have it like soft scrambled eggs, but not even ready to put on a plate. So this is good. Nice and runny like that. Now, if we're gonna use cheese, which was optional, then we're just gonna sprinkle our cheese on at this point. I'm just using a little cheddar here, if you'll remember. And then we're gonna turn off the heat. Make sure you remember to do that so you don't have a house fire. And then we're gonna take this and we're gonna go finish it in the oven. A very hot oven, as hot as you can get it. If you have a broil setting, great. If you have just 400 or 500 degrees, we're gonna go stick it in there. We're gonna stick it pretty high up, right up near the top, and close the oven. If you look here inside, it's nice and golden brown and it's risen to a big puffy, wonderful sort of masterpiece. So I'm gonna go get an oven mitt, we'll take it out, and then we'll let it cool for a minute and be good to go. So make sure you get some sort of oven mitt. This one's a silicone, but something. This pan is really, really hot, as you can see, and that handle will be too hot to hold. So I'm just gonna take this out, and that's our frittata. Nice and golden. That cheese bubbling. All right, so then we have our wonderful frittata. I made mine in a sort of a non-stick pan, so it should just slide on out. Just gonna use a little rubber spatula to get the edges free. If you didn't use non-stick, it might take a little more effort, but it should be okay. And then I'm just gonna slide that out there. And then I can take off my oven mitt and we have a nice, beautiful frittata.